Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasts.
Do you struggle with perfectionism? Are you always trying to find that next thing that you can conquer? If that's you, stay tuned.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to True Crime Connections. My name's Tiffany, and I'm your host. This week, we are talking with Leah Johnson, and we are talking about how to find your joy after trauma, addictions, even addictions to success, which is a thing. So, welcome, Leah. I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you, Tiffany. It's great to be here.
So, where did all this come from? Did this stem from childhood? This need to be perfect? This need to always be driven?
Yeah, I would say it started very early. Growing up, there were very high expectations. A lot of my work through all of the things has been, really healing and working through my relationship with my mother, who passed away when I was 30, so some time ago now. And yeah, there was a lot of expectations when I was growing up to be the most, the best student, the best golfer, the best, student body president. And I'm not really sure where it was external and then it became internal, but somewhere along the line, it definitely became very internally driven that I felt this need to, constantly prove myself or constantly be better or the best. I went all the way, I played collegiate golf at a Division I level and then pursued a career in politics that, was politics is what it is. And
I can only imagine.
Right. Yeah. But it was always about the next success. I worked on national campaign politics. And then from there, I came home and I was, really driven to, make an impact in my community. And then I ran for city council and I got elected. And then I was looking to do the next thing and, run for higher office and all of those things, all of the next things to, fill that void in me. But I learned eventually, it took a while, that no success was going to fill that void. And, ultimately, when I wasn't the most successful ever, I filled the void with other addictions, like alcohol. And so it really became this vicious cycle of, trauma response and trying to adapt and cope and not truly dealing with the trauma that I needed to deal with. So yeah, it's been a journey, but certainly the need to succeed started very early in my life.
I can identify with that, but not so much like very early. But I feel as I've gotten older, I've had something to prove to myself. So I can totally get that.
Yeah, well, I feel like so often we are judged by our external accolades, right? Like, oh, I got this award, or I accomplished this, or I got the promotion, or just all of those things that once I kind of stripped them all away and realized they're much like my trauma, my successes actually don't define me either. It's, you know, really who I am at my essence and who I am at my core. That's me. And to have any of those things fill me up in a different way, good or bad, isn't actually doing any good for, my overall being as a human. And so yeah, but I think there's so many external factors that, you know, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be successful. And I think success can be defined very differently. Maybe success is just being happy.
It'd be a lot easier, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
Agreed. So
So
what brought you on like your journey? Especially now you wrote a book called my mind just
finding
went,
fantastic joy.
yes.
Yeah.
What brought you to write that?
Well, I think that once I got on the other side of it, and I really do, I like look at this, my life as like there's a line and there's like the before and the space where I was, driven by that need to succeed and just prove something. And then, it was perpetuating generational cycles of trauma and addiction. And it was a pretty dark place. By that, I mean a very dark place. And then, like, after and now, this time where I find myself, you know, I don't I'm never really in that dark despair place anymore. I mean, it seems so far and distant. And I find a place of, just contentment. And I mean, joy to me is like a state of being. Like happiness can be temporary, but joy is one of those underlying things. And so yeah, so after I came kind of through it, I felt like I had a story to share. And having served in a public capacity in my, community and in the region I live in, and the fact that people don't talk about addiction and trauma enough, I felt it was important to share that story because everybody has something that they're struggling with, no matter who you are or what your role is. And so to just acknowledge that, I'm not perfect, I'm just human. So,
Love that. We do. We need to give ourselves a break, especially when you do come from generational trauma or any kind of trauma. And like you said, we all have something. Nobody floats through life with nothing going on.
no, not for sure. And I mean, if they tell you it, I don't think they're telling the truth because like life is not easy. Like there's a lot of things that are really hard. But the other thing, I think, this realization that you can't wait for life to get easy to be content and happy. Like there's always going to be hard things. Life is always going to be hard, but you always have a choice of how you look at things. And I really try and be that like desperate optimist these days, and the idea that, in the field of weeds, there is always that flower, and noticing the flower. And I always say, when all you look for is beauty, that's all you see. And I really try being the operative word to operate that way.
Well, we all have good days and bad days. I mean, not every day you're gonna be your best friend, but
Right.
you give yourself that break and hopefully the next day you are again.
For sure. So
What do you think are some of the hardest lessons that you had to learn?
I think I had to learn, and I'm still learning, to forgive myself. I think guilt and shame are some really powerful emotions that can dictate how we feel about ourselves and, behaviors we may have done, especially when you're, in active addiction of any kind. I think you sometimes, again, you're disconnected from your essence because you're being influenced by external things. And so I think forgiving myself was probably the hardest thing, and allowing myself to give myself grace and say, I'm not perfect. I I have these challenges. I am coping with my trauma through addiction, and acknowledging that I had those challenges. I think, that's the hardest thing I think any of us can do. And then from there, just admitting it and asking for help. I think that's something we feel like, again, to that same idea of external success. Like we're told, like, you can do it, you'll be fine. And we have this stigma about asking for help and realizing that there are things that we need other people to help us with. So,
Absolutely. You can't solve all the world's problems. You can't.
no, you cannot.
I think that's like a very good lesson for everybody, especially because you are going to make mistakes and it's okay. You forgive yourself, you learn from them, and you move on.
Yeah. I mean, giving ourselves grace is an important thing. And one of the things I kind of have this little exercise I do where like if it comes in because a lot of my spiritual practice is really about getting the heavy things out of me and letting Mother Earth hold them because then it allows space inside me for more good to come and the heavy and the bad is no longer inside of me. So whenever there's like memories of things that I have shame about or feel guilty about come up in my mind, I really try and visualize them coming out of me and then wrapping them in love. And I mean, it's this idea of like literally giving myself self compassion because it's so easy then for those narratives to just keep running in my mind. But this way, I have a clear intention that they are no longer a part of me but not with shame and guilt, with love. So,
I like that. To spin on it. So, you're not holding on to it, you're still letting it go, and it's no longer a negative thought.
right. And you also didn't criticize yourself while trying to get rid of it. So, which is really hard to
Right.
do.
It can be, especially if you're trying to get out of all the negativity. You have to
Right.
think about it.
It's a process. It's lots and lots. So,
Did you seek like any counseling or anything? Is that a technique
well,
that you learned?
all of the things. So, I mean, I think it's a combination of everything, right? That kind of like helps you get to where you ultimately are. So I did go to a rehab facility at one point in this journey, which was really the pivotal point of like the before and after. And interestingly enough, there, while I stopped, that was when I stopped drinking alcohol. What I also did there was write a press release to withdraw from my reelection for my position that I was currently holding. And honestly, that was the harder thing to do than giving up alcohol. I mean, I could not ever drink again and I'm fine. I don't have the cravings for that, but I do often think about, well, how could I go at this or this? And I'm like, then I really have to catch myself and be like, those are very unhealthy thoughts and places to go. And if I were to follow through, really, I would just be setting myself back into that cycle of that doing it to prove something. And that's a terrible reason to do something. So,
Absolutely. Do it because for the right reasons.
right. Well, and that was one of the kind of amazing things about writing the book is it just, my dad called it divine intervention. It just kind of came out of me. But it was the first thing I'd ever done in my life that I kind of put out into the world that I had no expectations about. Like the simple act of doing it was the success. And so, anything beyond that is, I don't know, it's just been this really amazing, beautiful journey because the expectations of this needing to prove, I mean, I wrote the book. That was it. So,
Literally.
yeah. So, yeah.
I realized like I had a fear of not only failing, but a fear of succeeding. So I literally kept myself in like this bubble where I did not let myself grow or like take chances. I was scared to try things. Like it was crazy, absolutely crazy to me.
Wow. I mean, I guess there is some of that, right? Like, you know, too much of it can define you differently too, right? So it's truly finding a balance, which I mean, I'm no expert. I'm still very much in process. but but yeah, it's that, you know, not being, and I think in some ways it's also my lack of fear. Like I don't feel failure, like it's just inevitably part of it. But I think that also has, now that I'm aware of that, it's different, but in the past it's also fueled that cycle of addiction, right? Cuz addiction, you have the highs and the lows, and the failures give you the low. It's a same cycle of that. And so I think I just took the pendulum out a little bit more. I was a little bit more extreme.
I hate that damn cycle.
I know.
Whoa there, Sparkle Farts, my trusty unicorn. I've got to tell these good people about our show. Hey there, I'm CJ, host of Beyond the Rainbow, True Crimes of the LGBTQ+. While I do have episodes on some of the more well-known cases from the LGBTQ community, such as Matthew Shepard, Brandon Tina, and the Orlando Pulse nightclub massacre, I cover world cases like the London nail bombing murders, Australia's Snowtown murders, in South Africa's corrective rape and murder of lesbians. I cover lesser-known cases like the murder of 21-year-old trans man Alex Van Dalsen in Indiana. Police called his death a suicide. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. I tell you about wrongful conviction cases, serial killers, and school shooters. My unicorn and I cover all sorts of crimes against the LGBTQ and crimes by members of the LGBTQ. You don't have to be part of the community to listen. All walks of life are welcome to become Rainbow Warriors, because you matter. And remember, it's not a crime to be gay, unless you're a murderer.
You did some let's rephrase that, not time, but you went and like up into the mountains and you like did some real spiritual work, right?
Yeah, well, so I actually go to Mexico and take women to a place called Teotihuacan, which is where I started going 12 years ago. And I would truly say that that was the moment I started healing, was the first time I went there. And it's been a process ever since. But it was that experience that truly connected me to something external out of myself that like showed me love and compassion and this idea of the universe or a higher power. I really and for me it was connecting to spirituality from a feminine perspective. So much in our society in the United States, when you see religion or spirituality, it has a pretty masculine tone to it. And when I discovered, the deep roots of the Native Mexican religions and spirituality, the Toltecs, and then all the way through to Guadalupe, who is the Our Lady, and she's this amazing figure who's revered as a spiritual deity in their culture and beyond. And once I connected with spirituality outside of that traditional space that I was pushing back so hard against, it really empowered me again to go deeper into myself and connect to my intuition and be able to have a relationship with an energy and a higher power that I felt was loving and supportive. So
Gotta find something that speaks to you. And I mean, obviously that spoke to you and it spoke to the other women that you also take there. So that's amazing.
yeah, I think, and interestingly enough, we have women who come from all different religions. So it's not, any specific thing, but it's about connecting for me with what's already in you, that we just kind of pile all the stuff on, right? And how we, again, release that and let Mother Earth hold it and allow for the space within us to, rejuvenate and get new. And I think that idea is, it becomes a very daily literal practice of releasing and allowing things to constantly flow instead of getting to the place where you have those pendulums, right? It allows a little bit more, I don't know, a nicer pace.
Right.
Mhm.
So what does that look like when you're trying to give everything to Mother Nature?
Well, quite literally through ceremony and, you can do it. It's really easy. You could go outside right now and do it. It's so like, that's the beautiful thing about it. And holding rocks and sticks and things that have, represent Mother Nature, and assigning all of that heavy stuff to those things, those items of Mother Nature, and then literally giving them back to her. It's like this whole process of releasing, and it's one of my favorite little ceremonies I've learned over the years. So,
Do you do this every day?
not every day, but I do it often. When I feel myself things, I'm holding on to things, and I do it with my children a lot, because I think something I never felt like I was taught was really to understand my emotions, for one, but then also like how to process them. And it's something I really try to say, help my kids understand that we can process through things and move through things. And I think a lot of my experience was not processing things. And when you don't process them, well, you get my 20s. Actually, the early 30s were maybe the most rough. So
No, I love that you do that with your kids, because I always said, like, we need to start kids younger, teaching them coping mechanisms, because we don't do that. Everyone's like either hush or keep it in or do this, do that. But instead, they need to learn how to deal with it, express it, label it, and be able to move on.
wow. I mean, that's the goal, at least a little bit better than I did. Like,
Right. Well, I didn't do it at all. So, yeah.
there was nothing until very, like, the last 5 years. So up to that, there wasn't a lot of processing. So
I feel like as in the last, I don't know, 7 to 10 years, like we have really grown, like looking at things differently, looking at traumas, looking at the bigger picture of things, where everything else was always hush hush, mental health, addiction, all that. We always tried to keep that secret, and it did nothing for nobody. And now people talk about it, they share their stories, and people can identify and learn how to move forward themselves. And I think that is so powerful.
absolutely. I mean, that was part of the reason I wrote the book, is because even now, I mean, again, to your point, we've moved on to a good extent, but there's still so much work to do.
Mm.
And I mean, I still believed when I went to rehab that if anybody found out I was there, my life was over. Like, my career was over, just all of it. And then I turned around 2 years later and wrote a book and told everybody the whole story. So guess my life isn't over, it turns out. But I believed that. Like, I believed that I couldn't talk about it, and I couldn't admit I had a problem, because then that meant I was a failure. And the reality is I had a problem. I needed to address a few of them. And because I did, I found this entirely new world of just relative contentment and joy that I couldn't even conceive existed at that point. But to, I don't know, talk about it and let people know that you can get through it. And it's not easy. It's so hard, but you can. And the other side is like this, for me, has been this amazing, rewarding, fulfilled life that I was so desperate for. So
I think, in a sense, I think we all can get there. You just got to like take a step back and really analyze what it is that the hell you're doing with your life. I think I probably need to check in at least, I don't know, once a week with myself and just be like, okay, where are we at? Are we on track? What are we doing? Because it's so easy to get lost. It's so easy to forget where you're going, and it's so easy to give up.
well, and have you got to a place where you're okay with a little bit more success and a little bit more failure? Or
Yeah, I mean, I'm a podcaster now, so
yeah, there you go. Yay. I love it.
I never would have done this in a million years. So, absolutely. It's baby steps, our journey's never over.
No.
So,
Well, and to kind of that space. Alcoholics Anonymous was not really, again, I was like, is there a success Alcoholics Anonymous? Because that one I need to go to. But AA was never my thing for lots of reasons, but they have the motto, which is one day at a time, right? And I think we take these like big, huge, ambitious spaces and forget that you have to still get there one day at a time. And sometimes it's even an hour at a time, right? Like, especially in sobriety, I mean, journeys can be so challenging to where it is like, if I can stay sober for an hour. And I was really fortunate enough to never have that intense of an experience. But I know, friends in recovery who do. And so that idea that you can do one thing right now, you can do one thing in an hour, you can do one thing in a day, that makes your life a little bit better and moves a little bit more in the direction of working through the trauma and working through all the pain instead of just sitting in it. And then that's, to me, what addiction really did for me, is it just made me sit in my pain and my suffering and never work through it. And once I stopped the activities that were prohibiting me from working through it, I was able to work through it and find closure and healing that I couldn't have otherwise.
Right. I mean, once you sober up, you're kind of forced to deal with it.
Right? What do they do? No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not. All of the above.
I get it.
So
yeah, but, I mean, you should be very proud of yourself and where you are today.
I am. I really am. And being a mother is like, it's my jam. I love it. I really like my kids. I love spending time with them. We travel all the time, everywhere. It's really part of this new part of my journey is, how do we integrate and see the world and have that add spiritual and emotional and, intellectual growth to all of us as a family. And so yeah, I'm really proud of, and I stopped things like, that's good. People are like, what advice do you have for people? I'm like, quit things. Just quit. Lots of things. It's okay. I mean, it really is. Like, we forget that.
You've been to like 30 countries, right?
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So we just got back from a adventure in Iceland with so my husband and my two kids. It's just us, and we go. And so, yeah, we did a little almost 12-day adventure in Iceland, and it was pretty epic. So
I can only imagine.
We got to see the Northern Lights twice, which was very exciting. That was the whole reason we really went. So good thing. There were lots of other cool things too, but
right. Hopefully you weren't near the volcano.
No, we were actually quite a ways away when it erupted when we were there. So but it's a beautiful place. It's an amazing country for sure. So, but yeah, traveling has truly been kind of a vehicle into that. And also, with my trips to Mexico, it's kind of it's the same idea of, going to a place that you don't know, and it's a risk and there's a lot of emotions that come with it. But I think that the growth that women get when they come and explore and are in a new place with sights and smells and sounds that are different, it allows you to expand and grow in a different way. And again, it's that is just really cool to be a part of. And then, traveling with my kids, it's just fun to see the world through their eyes. So,
do you want to adopt me?
Sure. Come on down. Let's do it.
I like it.
My kids will tell you, though, you never know what you might get. And I'm a terrible singer and I sing all the time. So
Hey, you know what? You can only get better with practice, right?
That's right.
So
I like,
how important was it for you to break the generational trauma?
I mean, critically important. I'm actually, it scares me to think, had I not changed, what my children's life would have been like, right? Because it just keeps compounding. Like it doesn't get gradually better, it gets gradually worse. And I think, there was just so much there. Sexual assault is just a word that runs rampant in the whole thing, right? And so, and women who had never been able to deal with that or acknowledge it in some cases because it wasn't safe. Just like, I think recognizing that and then being able to not only heal for myself but heal for past generations, like give them compassion and understand that it wasn't your fault and we were all doing, everyone is just doing the best they can. And so I think that it's it was critical because you know my children life would have been drastically different than an adventure in Iceland. They
For
probably,
sure.
quite frankly, they probably wouldn't have had a mother. So I don't think I would have made it. So in my darkest, deepest points, I tried multiple times to take my life. And so, I think had I not decided to change something, my children wouldn't have known their mother because I wouldn't have been here. So,
Well, at least you were able to see that. A lot of people are not, and they carry it on. But and it's just so important that we do realize where we came from, who we could be, but who we chose not to be. Because the same with me,
right.
generational trauma runs in my family. And I said, it ends with me. We're done. We're not doing this anymore. And so to be able to see that and be able to do that, I think you are amazing for that because, like you said, it could have gone so left.
Well, I mean, had one of those times been successful and there was one that was very close, it would have been a totally different story. And so I think the realization that not just I deserve better, and then of course my kids and everybody else, but I think it's that forgiveness and then self-love. Like we all are unique, amazing humans, and we all deserve that space and that option and that hope. And sometimes it's so hard to see, but
Keep looking.
right.
Don't
There you
give
go.
up.
Thank you for finishing my sentence. Perfect. Just in sync here. Amazing.
If anybody wanted to get your book, is it on Amazon and all like Barnes and Noble?
Yeah, it's pretty much anywhere on the internet. They will help you with that. But it's finding fantastic joy. And usually because you know how all this stuff goes, like there's a million books out there, literally. So sometimes if you just put it in Google, it'll pop up. But if you go into Amazon, you have to actually put my name with it. So there you go. But it was super cool. We met this woman on a tour in Iceland and she bought my book right there on the spot.
Ooh,
I know. I was like, that's fun.
right?
So she found it on Amazon. So I know it's there. But and then I don't know if my website is just findingfantasticjoy.com. And if anyone's interested, they can find out about the women's retreats there. It's Teotihuacan. It's outside Mexico City. It's the pyramids, the Toltec pyramids, and we go around them, under them, over them in a hot air balloon, and it's just a really magical growth experience. So certainly like I said, it's been an honor to move into that space and share that with women for sure. So
That sounds amazing.
you should come.
I would love to. I didn't know how to pronounce that word. So that's why it's like, I'm not even going to attempt it. But
Teotihuacan.
yeah, that.
Yeah, that. Yeah.
I will make sure I put links also in the show notes for anyone who either wants the book or to come find you. You don't take men? Not that I care, but I'm a woman. But
So the retreats in Mexico, no, I haven't. I am potentially working on some things in 2025 that to Peru that would include men. So if you're interested, sign up and stay tuned.
Awesome. You picked some amazing places.
Yeah. I was joking today that, my family, that people are like, how do you afford to travel? And I'm like, we do 1-ply toilet paper and a lot of ramen noodles. So there you go.
I love it.
I'm only half kidding. So like I said,
We
you
only
make your own joy anywhere.
Oh my God. That is hilarious. I love it. Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I think that was fun and great, I think.
Well, good. I know sometimes my words just do not come out right. And I'm like, Jesus, like, can you like reprogram? I don't know.
I never thought that once. So I think that's that like internal narrative that isn't actually true. So
See, this is why I love you.
yeah, it's funny. Actually, the Toltec call it the matote. And it's the 10,000 voices in your head. So whenever you hear that, you're like, matote, I know that's you. I'm not listening. So
Matote.
matote.
I'm going to remember that.
Yes.
I'm going to be like in the grocery store yelling it. People are going to be like, what in the hell?
If it helps you be better well adjusted, why not?
Right? No, I'm serious. Anytime I keep getting in my mind, matate. Wait, did I say that right?
Matote.
Matote. Matote.
M-I.
Got it. Okay. All right. Perfect.
Well, awesome. Well, I certainly appreciate you taking the time. This was a lot of fun. So
No, absolutely. Thank you so much. I think we all know somebody who can benefit from this episode. Please make sure to share it with them. And thank you guys so much for listening to my podcast. This really means a lot to me. If one of my episodes has helped you in any way, I would really like to know. It's important for me to know that the work that I'm doing is actually helping people. If you want more of me, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram and TikTok. If you or anyone you know is in need of national hotlines, please go to truecrimeconnections.com. I have all the phone numbers there listed for anything that you could possibly imagine. All right, my Renowned Roots community, keep building hope and gaining strength. Until next time.